This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Hunting season isn't over, but it feels like it is. We'll talk about that, grouse hunting, and a lot more next. Welcome into Sports Source Wild. I'm Bob Hodge along with Joe Justice.
Hey,
and
everybody.
today a special guest, our first guest.
Right.
And he wins lots of prizes. Mike Carruthers, bird hunter, hunter, lots of things, bird dog owner. Do you train your own bird dogs
I
too?
train my own dogs. My favorite thing to do.
There you go. So we're going to be talking about grouse hunting and a little bit of woodcock hunting.
Yeah.
And a little bit of small game hunting. Matter of fact, a lot of small game hunting because I think that is, I know years ago, that's how I got started.
Same here. I mean, I think we all started out either squirrel or rabbit or something like that to kick it off. But
Absolutely. Started out shooting squirrels and rabbits with my Uncle Mitch and my dad. So.
And these days, I don't know how many kids have ever even thought about shooting a squirrel.
very few. I mean, back when I started, at least, there wasn't that many deer. And now the youth now can start out immediately on deer and even turkeys. I mean,
You're a big game hunter at birth.
there was no turkeys. There was no turkeys to chase hardly back when I started.
So we're gonna get into all that, and we're also gonna get into something that we talked about last week. Let's start your show off with that. Last week we talked about Tennessee is going to be looking at upping hunting or poaching fines.
Adding restitution costs, perhaps.
Yeah, you got restitution costs in there. And so it seems like more and more states are starting to take this stuff more and more seriously. And I just wanted to relay a couple of things that have happened. This is recent. I mean, just within the last few weeks, at the most a month, things that have happened across the U.S. and how much it is costing people. And the first one is from Texas. Now, most people don't relate duck hunting to Texas.
Oh, it's a great
place.
Great waterfowl.
Great place to duck hunt.
Great quail state.
But I think most people, when you say duck hunting, it's Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana. But Texas, like you said, great place to duck hunt. Well, some hunters walked away with more than $7,000 in fines.
That would hurt.
And most of that is, a lot of that is restitution. The hunters illegally harvested 54 ducks. 3 times the legal bag limit. So if you do the math in your head and it's bag limit 6 ducks, 3 times. So there was 3 guys hunting. They also had a guy with him. He didn't have a license. So he got not only charged with that, plus they were using lead shot.
Nice.
So, I mean, hey, go big or go home.
Yeah, if you can break the law, break a lot of them.
Exactly.
And I think one of the guys didn't even have a license, or 2 didn't even have a hunt license.
And then when the Texas game folks showed up, they a couple of them ran, tried to hide, were doing this, that, and the other. So I mean, it's sort of like, hey, if we're going to go, let's go all in. Get what we pay for. So $7,000 in fines and restitution, and that's a pretty good day. Plus, you may have some federal charges coming down on top of that too, because the duck is obviously, that's a federal bird.
Exactly.
So
hopefully that'll keep them from trying to do it again.
You know what? $7,000 would deter me.
Oh, me as well.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you tell your wife?
hey, honey,
Oops.
Yeah,
remember the Florida trip? Yeah. I don't really want to go.
So much for Disney, baby.
Yeah.
But it'd been cheaper to buy a license. It'd been cheaper to buy a $30 box of steel.
Oh, yeah.
Or however much they are now.
And it's funny, I think it's funny story about steel shot. I have 10 gauge turkey loads. I hunt with a 10 gauge. I don't like to take chances.
Yeah.
I also hunt geese with a 10 gauge. So I have 10 gauge turkey loads, 10 gauge steel. Well, you don't use all your shells in one year, so they hang around, they beat around in your turkey vest, they beat around your, and the writing comes off of it.
Oh yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. They get mixed together.
Every year before either goose season or turkey season. Now not this year because I finally got a Sharpie and marked them myself.
Smart
I had
man.
to get a magnet. And before I would go out and goose hunt with that 10 gauge, I had to stick a magnet to every shell I had. And luckily, hey, it works. You know, and I actually learned that from a TWRA officer out at Reelfoot Lake. He came, checked their blind, had a magnet with him, make sure nobody had snuck that in there.
Well, it's cheaper to check it at home than it is to get checked in the blind.
Exactly. No $7,000 for me. And the other one, real quick, Montana men lose hunting and fishing privileges for 20 years. And that is because they decided that it would be good to poach elk, poach bear, and a phrase I've never heard associated with, they also poached trout, which sounds delicious.
It does.
Yeah.
But they got hit with 20 years losing all their hunting and fishing rights, and they paid over $16,000 in restitution.
For all 3 infractions?
For everything.
Yeah.
$16,000, and that is 32,000 total. Both of them had to pay $16,000. So my question is just at what point it just ain't worth it.
Right. Well, these guys were pretty bold. They actually gigged trout in a display pond at a hatchery.
Oh, my.
And so it was in like the viewing pond when you come in. They have the big brooders so you can see them. They had actually found a couple and found some that they had gigged and not gotten that actually that they put down or took care of afterwards, had to be killed. So they were kind of a different breed anyway,
put
but
that
still.
under the heading of things I've never even thought about
No.
doing. Let's go to the hatchery. Let's take a gig. Let's see what we can do.
And right after that, we'll go fishing at Bass Pro. They got a big tank in there.
And what makes you think that's a good idea?
We'll go hand lining. Yeah. I mean, where do you come up with that?
Well, if you're gonna gig at the hatchery, might as well gig at the Bass Pro
That's
too.
right.
They got some good sized fish.
Yeah, there are.
So anyway, that's just a little bit on top of some things that we talked about last week. And Mike, we got a couple of different topics here today.
Okay.
And the first one, you are one of the last, I don't want to say one of the last, that's not correct, but you're a dedicated grouse hunter.
I am.
And you're a dedicated woodcock hunter.
Yep.
It seems like over the course of, say, the last 20 years, that is not dying, but it's kind of going the way of a lot of other things. You just don't see the grouse hunters, the woodcock hunters, the quail hunters, which I think that's more obvious because
Exactly.
go
No
find
quail.
a quail in East Tennessee now. But I had heard from different people that said, oh, grouse populations are going away. It's just not any point doing it anymore. It's not worth your time. You're a grouse hunter. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you when I was in college back in the mid-'90s, there was quite a few grouse in East Tennessee.
Right.
It wasn't uncommon to go flush 10, 15 birds in a day.
Yep.
And, as time goes by, those numbers are dropping and dropping. And my last bird dog, Carly, I'd go out and not find a grouse in a week or 2 weeks' time. And it was terrible.
Wow.
But I still went because I like to go. Well, now I'm starting to see bird numbers creeping back up. And it's not uncommon to go out and have 3, 4 flushes, 5 flushes in a day, which for East Tennessee, that's pretty
is
good
pretty
day.
good.
And when the woodcock are in, I've had days where I've had 20 points, which is another great day.
Good for the dog, too.
Oh, it's fantastic for the
Is
dog.
it?
Woodcock's the best bird for a dog there is. They hold for points. There's plenty of them when they're migrating through.
Yeah.
And it's a fun bird to hunt. And they're tasty, too.
It's tough on the dogs. All the training you put in them, all that energy they have, and the desire and to go out and not find a bird.
Oh, it's awful.
And not even hear a bird. And
It's kind of like when I was dating.
they start.
But the numbers are getting better. I mean, like I said, it's very few days where I go out and get skunked. And I don't run into many hunters anymore like I used to in college, but there are some young guys starting to hunt grouse now. It's really awesome to see. Joe knows some of these guys.
Yeah, there's a strong.
And they are diehard
There's
grouse
a
hunters.
strong core group of guys that are dedicated, and they're finding birds.
They are. They find a lot of birds.
They're not finding 15 a day like in past
Yeah.
years,
No, but
but these guys are out there, and
They are.
and they're out there chasing them down. So
And it's good to see. I like seeing younger hunters out there. I mean, they're out there, they're getting birds, they're training their own dogs like I do, and it's just, it's fun to see that. And they also have a lot more information at their disposal too that we didn't have when
Oh,
we were
yeah.
younger. So I mean,
Maps.
now you can go. I mean, back when we were younger, we had that red, was it the Gazetteer
yeah,
topo map book?
Gazetteer, it's about this
just started
big.
flipping through it, trying to find places. Now you got apps they'll look through, and you just got so much information at your fingertips.
And you can put all the layers on the maps
Absolutely.
that show the clear-cut age and
There you go.
the elevation and different things. So you can almost, well, you can sit at home and chart out your route.
You can.
I'm going to go here, go there, and it cuts out a lot of the wasted steps or the
there's soil,
earned steps, as like
and there's soil maps now. The soil maps are handy for chasing woodcock, because woodcock dine on earthworms, and you got to find the right kind of areas to hunt them in. So
they're not going to be in red clay.
No, they're not. So but there's still a few grouse hunters out there. And like I said, it's great to see these young kids come up hunting.
What do you think led to the decline? Now they're bouncing back, but what do you think led to the numbers falling down? Because once again, when I was writing outdoors at the News Sentinel, I could have called 20 people and said, "Hey, why don't you take me grouse hunting? We'll do a story." I could have literally had grouse hunts every week during the season, probably 2 days a week during the season, and it just doesn't seem like it gets talked about. If you go on the internet, you hear a lot about turkeys, you hear a lot about deer, not a lot of conversation about grouse. So before we get to how come maybe they bounce back, what led to the decline?
I'm not exactly sure. I've heard all kinds of stories. The old timers say it's the coyotes, say it's turkeys also.
Turkeys, yeah, I hear that.
You hear a lot of that,
which is bunk.
Yeah, I've heard West Nile. There's several different theories. I'm not sure exactly why, because the habitat's still there, and there's not been a lot of habitat work done for grouse. I'd like to see more cutting done in the forest.
Right. Well, every time somebody wants to cut in the forest, there's a lawsuit.
There is.
Can't cut that.
And I mean, Cherokee National Forest, you've got all that land, and they're supposed to cut, I think, 6% of the land a year.
I think it's closer to 10%.
It could be.
The utilization plan when the national forests were set is they have to keep a healthy forest. And so that means successional growth, that being different layers, age layers.
Yeah.
So you're going to cut it down, it's going to regrow, and you're going to have different stages. So if you cut it properly, then this is for all types of wildlife.
Right. Exactly.
You're going to have some mature forest, you're going to have some low forest, and you're going to have some younger cuts, younger age stuff in there. So it's a diverse habitat, and that's one of the things that's missing for the grouse here in Tennessee and all along Appalachia.
Yeah.
Well, in the Cherokee, I know this, every time somebody wants to go in and cut in the Cherokee, there's a lawsuit.
There is.
And so you get dragged to court. You don't know if you're going to win or lose. And so a lot of people have just said, you know what, we're taking it someplace else. We're not even going to try to log here because we don't want to pay the time and the money that you get tied up in court. And a lot of people also think, I would give some people a little bit of credit, this is just a mistake they make, that if it's old and it's big, that means that's when it's at its best.
They'd love to take the pictures. I mean,
which is wrong.
Yeah, there's not much wildlife there.
No, big game, nothing benefits from these giant mature forests. They need these younger cuts because it brings cover, brings food,
forage.
Yeah, it brings everything.
They've got everything they need.
But like I said, those big trees are pretty.
So what do you think without a lot of habitat work being done, but some has been done, but without a lot of it being done, could it be the fact that, okay, you had a population here, you had hunters here, and then one started to decline, the other started to decline? Is it just they don't get the pressure they used to?
I don't think they do. And I'm not so sure hunting pressure has a huge impact on grouse in the area, but it very well could, because the numbers are increasing for the birds that I'm seeing, and the numbers of hunters, it's pretty low.
And I would say when it comes to being a woodcock hunter, there's not a lot of guys out there that even know woodcock hunting is legal. I shouldn't say there's not a lot. A lot of people don't know.
Exactly.
No,
they don't even know what a woodcock is.
No, they don't. When I was in college and I used to chase grouse, I never chased woodcock back then because I didn't know. I mean, I didn't really know until the first time I read a George Bird Evans book at the UT library, and he was talking about woodcock hunting. I was
what the heck?
What is this? Yeah. And my dog found one once upon a time, and I figured out the habitat where they're at, and I started chasing them. Like, hey, this is fun.
I actually think the first woodcock I ever saw in the wild, I was pretty young. I went and looked in a bird book, and I thought it was a snipe.
I did too.
A snipe?
That's exactly what I thought it was.
Snipe.
It's similar. They're a little fatter and not as fast as a snipe.
But that was the first thing. So, but it is good news that the grouse are coming back. You say some more younger hunters are starting to get into it. It just seemed like for a long time that it was fading out, and I would like to hear it or see it come back because I used to like to hear grouse
Oh, I love
during
to hunt.
turkey season.
I love.
Be
but
out in the
I'm-
woods
there's-
turkey hunting, hear them drumming.
It's such a cool bird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fantastic bird.
Well, I'm like you though. I mean, I quit hunting 8 years ago, 9 years ago. I went 11 trips, an average of 3 hours a trip, and moved 0 birds. And you know, I had several dogs at the time, and I thought, you know, I got to feed, water, take care of these dogs, keep them in shape, keep me in shape.
Yeah.
And there's nothing here. I got to drive to Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, or if I want to chase quail, I go to other states. So it kind of made me pull back and focus more on the big game. And if you look across the Appalachian Range, since 1989, early 90s, the grouse population has decreased 71%. And much like we were talking about, the AFWA, it's the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, have done a study in correlation with a couple other agencies. And they found that it was just what we were talking about. The successional growth is not there. I mean, this forest is basically, in biologist terms, it's aged out for utilization because most of it's between 80 and 120 years old once they stopped all the major clear cutting and deforestation. So it's just not utilized by grouse, deer.
Well, once again,
turkeys.
it's not utilized by hardly anything.
No.
You're not going to find a lot of turkeys in there. You're not going to find a lot of bear in there.
Right.
You're not going to find a lot of.
No, they'll
anything
travel
in there.
through there, but they're not.
Oh,
gonna
I
hang
mean,
out.
exactly. You'll see them passing through. Well, that brings us to the people that we're in partnership with, the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Tennessee Wildlife Federation is a group that they're out there and they got the people on the ground. They partner with a lot of other conservation groups, do projects from forest restoration. And once again, cutting trees and lighting fires is not always the worst thing that can happen to
a good
to the
prescribed
wood.
burn would be huge.
I
in a lot
mean,
of these
it
areas.
can make a heck of a difference. And so you got the Tennessee Wildlife Federation doing it. You've got a lot of other conservation groups that they partner with doing it.
Yeah.
And you also have Tennessee Wildlife Federation has the Hunting and Fishing Academy. This surprised me a little bit. Last year, 7,500 people attended
That's
the
pretty
Federation's
strong.
Hunting and Fishing Academy.
That's pretty strong.
So
That's a lot of kids.
If we're talking about something and the people watching this on YouTube would like to learn how to do some of these things that maybe they don't, then that's a good place to lay a foundation and start. And since you're watching us on YouTube, that's the reason we'd also like you to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Even if you don't like us, hit the like button. I know people like Joe.
Well, I'm gonna tell you.
I'll bet you they like Mike.
I'm gonna tell you a funny story. So when we first came here, and you know, I've been on YouTube looking at I follow a bunch of different people on there. Look at Dave Owens for turkeys and different things like that. But the whole subscribe thing, I had no concept. I always thought it cost money. And then our producer said, no, it's just like following somebody on Facebook. Their videos will come up onto your list when you come into your feed. So I followed us. And I haven't got charged yet.
And we're absolutely positively free. So
It
hit the
don't
like
cost
button,
a
hit the
thing.
subscribe button, go down and make a comment. Joe, if you could please, and if you want to send something to us, if you want to send us a picture, if you want to send us a story, anything like that, sportsourcewild@gmail.com. Send us your emails, and who knows exactly what we're going to do with it. Probably not anything illegal. We will try to keep it on the straight and narrow.
You can also comment on our videos on YouTube too.
Yes.
We see those and
Yeah, and we don't get offended easily.
not at all. Not yet.
You know, not yet anyway.
There's
Yeah,
a couple things we're probably going to address though in a later show. But
There's plenty of time to get offended later.
I'm going to like and subscribe when I get home.
thank
Well,
you.
there you go.
It don't cost nothing.
Yeah, don't cost
I like
nothing.
that price.
You don't have to reach into your pocket.
So taking it from grouse, and what I said at the opening of the show is it doesn't feel like there's hunting season right now. To me,
Everything's it's that time
hunting
of year.
season feels like it starts. Okay, even though I hardly squirrel hunt anymore, which is a part of this, it feels like it starts kind of in August. And then you got dove season at the beginning of September,
Which
the
kicks
early
it off.
wood duck season, the early goose season. So that's when it starts, and that feels like the kickoff. But then, to me, the day that the curtain drops on duck season, it feels like hunting season is over with.
So I'm similar. That you and I dove hunt.
Yeah.
And so that to me is like, it's here.
Yes.
The first dove hunt is here.
It is.
Then everything gets going, the adrenaline, and you're like, man, I got to
It's
go.
like being in Neyland Stadium. It's football time in Tennessee.
Yep.
No,
Then it's
time to go out and
archery,
hunt
then it's
something.
muzzleloader, then
then-
Thanksgiving, you're right in the middle of it.
Yes.
It's like, oh yeah.
And then as soon as duck season's over, for me, I'm done. I don't think about hunting anymore.
Yeah.
Now, you still got a couple of weeks of grouse hunting left.
And I got the woods to myself.
And you've got the woods to yourself. And I just wonder, are we missing out on something? I mean, he's out there in the woods now, but I haven't hunted in February in I don't know how many years. And when I was a kid, when I started, it started, I guess, 8 or 9 years old. I can't remember. Going out, kicking the fence rows for rabbits. And then probably 9 or 10 started squirrel hunting. And a lot of people don't know this these days, but if you can hunt squirrels successfully,
Kill a deer.
you can
Absolutely.
hunt.
Oh yeah.
It's a great training ground.
Basics. It's amazing. You learn how to sneak up on stuff. You learn how to just move in the woods, sit still in the woods.
You learn how
and
you learn how to listen.
you learn how to hunt.
Now I'm half deaf, so I can't listen anymore.
Well, back then you could probably hear.
But I could hear things.
And it's fun to hunt squirrels. I mean,
Yeah.
it is so much fun. And I think kids don't see it on TV. All your hunting shows are big game shows.
Correct.
And it's not
Good
the sexy
point.
thing to do.
Very good
I
point.
mean, but it's where you learn, and it's still a fun thing as an adult. I love going squirrel
well,
hunting.
the youth now, they can start out immediately
Absolutely.
on a deer or a turkey sitting in a blind.
Yeah.
And there's turkeys, and there's a good chance they're going to get a deer or a turkey. But
Oh.
when I started, I don't know about you, but I know Bob and I talked about this earlier. I started with a single shot shotgun and the shell in my hand, and waited for the rabbit to come around. And those guys would say, the rabbit's coming around, load your gun. They would let me do all that stuff. So go through all those motions. And when I finally got my first rabbit, I mean, it was a huge deal. And that lit a fire.
Yeah.
I mean, it lit a fire. And then you progress, and then you learn how to deer hunt, and then you learn, and I don't know, I see that missing in a lot of the young kids. They don't start out actually hunting.
No.
I don't mean to say it that way, I guess.
No, but I
they
know
don't
what you're
start
meaning,
out boots
because-
on the ground.
Because
I do it with kids. I take a bunch of kids turkey hunting.
Yeah.
I take kids deer hunting. I go set the stand up. I watch the deer. Then I take them and set them beside me and like, all right, shoot that big doe.
Yeah.
And they have no concept how that all came about. Why
Yeah.
are we sitting there? How did you pick this tree? So
I started out, like I said, I was rabbit hunting before I squirrel hunted. And I think I hunted a year, never got anything. You had a little single shot 20 gauge. I had a little over under 410.
which I'd love to have that gun.
I think everybody, a lot of people had that same
He's
gun
got
when
one
they
of
was a kid.
the 22 long rifle
Oh, yeah,
over
those
a
are awesome.
410.
And
the
the
Savage.
410. I mean, still have the gun. And the first day that not the first day I saw a rabbit, but the first rabbit I got, I mean, it was monumental. I can tell you more about that day, I shouldn't say it, but I will, than when my children were born. I mean, that's how big of a deal it was, that first rabbit when I was a kid.
Hunter, Zach, close your ears.
Yeah.
You were hooked immediately.
And exactly. And I told Joe, I went the first year, didn't get anything. Then that year I got that rabbit. Then just a couple of weeks later, I got 2 out of the same wood pile. And then like a week later or so, I got 2 more. And so 5 rabbits that first season. And I mean, I was going to be hunting for the rest of my life. But now when my children came along, those children, when they were born, I didn't seem to pay a lot of attention to and was more excited about remembering my first hunt. They hunted rabbits, they hunted squirrels, but they cut their teeth on deer.
Yeah.
And that's on me.
A lot of kids do.
I mean, both of my kids had killed deer before they were 10. I think Hunter was 8. I think Zach was 9, maybe 10. But that's sort of on me. But nowadays, nobody thinks about small game hunting
No, they
anymore.
don't.
Do you remember your first? What was your first thing? Were you rabbit hunting or
Duck
squirrel
hunting.
Duck
And
hunting.
my dad and my uncle
Yeah.
were big duck hunters.
Oh,
They'd
yeah?
take me duck hunting on Old Hickory Lake, and we'd dove hunt, and then I got to already go quail hunting with them, but duck hunting was my first thing.
What was your first? Do you remember your first duck?
It was a mallard, greenhead.
Decoys or?
Oh, he has hunting decoys. It was draw blinds on Old Hickory Lake. My dad and my uncle would always
Really?
put in, and they were fun hunts. I mean, I was a little kid, and I remember going and helping them dress the blinds up and all that. But now I shot a mallard, and thought it was the coolest thing on earth.
Yeah.
And heck, for all I know, my dad or my uncle might have shot out, but they said it's my duck.
It's yours.
So we're going to stick to that story. It's my duck.
I can still remember mine. I was on a rabbit hunt with my dad and some of the guys he worked with. And there I am waiting, the rabbit came around, I got the load up. So standing with my father, he shoots the rabbit, and it was across this little ditch full of briars, kind of up on a little bank. And it was tough for him to get through there. There was no way to get around, so he had to go. So one of the other guys came up and stood by me. He said, why don't you go ahead and unload your gun? So we're standing there talking. And he goes, hey, would you want to shoot that fox squirrel? And I was like, what? And he points it out to me. It took me forever to see it. And I loaded up. Sure enough, I made sure my dad was out of the way. He got his rabbit. That was the first thing I ever did. I shot a fox squirrel. To me, it was it was as huge as a house cat. I mean, I cradled it all the way back. It wasn't obviously or anything that I'd gotten a squirrel, but that kicked it off. I was head over heels, nuts about it.
Yeah, I went rabbits and squirrels. You went duck. What was number 2?
Dove. It's mostly birds. I didn't shoot a deer until later in life, but
well, now see, I didn't either.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, to kill a deer, you went to West Tennessee.
Yeah, there wasn't many.
You didn't hunt anything over here in East Tennessee. And turkeys, I almost didn't like. I didn't want to start turkey hunting because I'd heard the horror stories of guys that, man, last year he heard a gobble.
Right.
Wasn't it a great season? He heard one gobble. I thought, who wants to go out there and do that?
Shoot, and if these guys heard a gobble, they're sure not going to tell you where they were.
No.
Yeah.
They were tight-lipped back then.
And here's the other thing. I can field dress a deer about as quick as I can clean a squirrel.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too. But I grew up with my mom. I cleaned everything I killed, and my mom would cook everything I killed. I mean, it started out rabbits, and then it went to squirrels, and then the next thing was wood ducks. And we had a lot of wood ducks. And so that's where I got mine. And I just think these days, you start at the top, and you never think about working your way down. And I think you miss something. Those skills that we still use to one degree or another.
From cutting your teeth on squirrels and rabbits. And
the thing about it, too, there's no shortage of rabbits and squirrels. I mean, we got tons of public land.
Exactly.
And there's rabbits and squirrels on every one of them. I mean, so the
and
animals are there.
You got till the end of February to do it.
Yeah. And see, that's just it.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at the house, and I'm thinking, man, I got to have my boat ready because I'm really wanting to fish. And, boy, I wish the water would come down into Holston because I really want to trout fish. And, it's time to go start looking at some of the turkey hunting places and make sure that everything's in good shape. And you could still be out there in the woods hunting. Yeah. And every place that I hunt, rabbits and squirrels will be there for the taking.
I tell you what I miss about grouse hunting, aside from working with dogs, which to me, anytime you can hunt with a dog puts it on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
If that's your dog and you took it from a belly full of worms to what it is right now, I'm telling you, it's a different experience to shoot a bird over your dog after they've done everything right. Oh my goodness.
And my dog.
But the one thing I miss is when I was grouse hunting, when I was rabbit hunting, I mean, I found sheds. I found the major winter trails.
Oh, yeah.
I knew where all the deer were traveling, which little hollers they were coming in and out of. You're going to push turkeys around,
Absolutely.
so I found all the turkeys. I found the old scrape lines and rub lines for the deer. And I was hunting. I wasn't just out beating around scouting.
Yeah.
I was hunting, going around, finding all this stuff, making mental notes because we didn't have OnX back then.
Yeah.
And, it helped me scout. It actually kind of made me a better hunter. I knew where to go. I'm not going to go that holler because I know they're not going to use it. Yeah. They're all the way over here in this stuff. So I missed that too.
Couple of years before trail cameras.
Yeah. Do you remember the old string cameras? That's what I started out with. It's called a trail timer. And you actually had a string, and you had a little unit over here that had like the referees keep score with, that kind of rolled, showed the number. And it would have a time in it. You pulled the string across the trail to a magnet, and when that string was broken, it set off that timer, and you could see, what time it was that something came through there. Now, it may have been the neighbor's pony, or a German shepherd.
May have been the
neighbor. But there was no picture. It just said, hey, something came through there at 4:30.
Never seen
And that's how we started. I've actually got one still at the house.
Boy, things things have changed a little bit.
Just a
since
teeny
then.
little
little
bit.
bit.
Mike Crothers, thank you for coming in and
Thanks for
talking
having
with
me.
us today. I'll bet you we're going to ask you to come back.
Anytime.
Matter of fact, we'll ask. Well, no, Joe's always going to be here.
Dang
Joe,
it. He's stuck with
appreciate
it.
it. And hopefully, remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, send some comments. Send us, if you could, Joe, one more time. Show the email address, sportsource@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. We thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.